So you're a first-time buyer and you come across a listing in the MLS or property that I sent you or some other thing, and you have this question. This word keeps coming up. It's contingency. What is a contingency? You see contingency backup or you see under contract. What does that mean? I am here to solve all your problems. I have the answers for you. Before I get into the video, I want you to know that I love these. I love these kind of questions because I have 20 years experience and I just love sharing that with you. And so please, thank you for submitting these questions and asking me, and submit more. Feel free to submit more. Leave them in the comments. My information is in the comments, so if you want to call, text, email, book a calendar appointment with me, or just leave it in the comments. Any kind of questions, I'm happy to answer. Please send them. Hi everyone, I'm Ryan Mills. I'm a realtor with the M&M team at Aviara Real Estate, and I've been helping buyers and sellers with their real estate questions, just like these, for nearly 20 years. So I get this question asked a lot. What is a contingency? And also, at the same time, what does under contract mean? Usually this comes from buyers who have come across a listing. This is either a first-time buyer or somebody who hasn't purchased in a while, has come across a listing in the MLS, on the internet, something I've sent to them, something that they found on some other search engine that we won't mention, and they see this. It's either written as contingencies, contingency period, or contingency backup, or under contract, and they have no idea what that means, and they come and ask me, what does that mean? So I am here to tell you and share with you my knowledge. We'll get right into the video. What is a contingency? So in California, we have what's called the California Association of Realtors. Realtors like to call them CAR. CAR makes what's called CAR forms. CAR forms are what most realtors in California use to write purchase agreements. And on these forms, these are very standardized forms written by an excellent team of writers and attorneys, because they've been through a lot. They've seen a lot of litigations. They understand what people want to see in the contracts. So they've standardized this for realtors. It's very easy for us to use. Directly in these CAR forms, in the purchase agreement, there's a section for buyers to submit contingencies. A contingency is what I like to call a condition. So basically, both buyer and sellers actually have them. But you mostly hear this with buyers. Buyers have contingencies. You purchase a home based on several factors that are met, several conditions that are met. For instance, buyer makes an offer on a property. They're making it contingent on the fact that several conditions have to be met in order for them to move on to actually closing on the property, giving the seller money and closing escrow, and now it's theirs. There's several of them for buyers, and actually the seller has one. They could have more, but they have one that's known. Sometimes the sellers need to buy another home, put an offer on another home before they're able to sell their current home. So that's a seller contingency. That's fairly common, but not as common as most buyer contingencies, and there's several of them, and I'll review them with you. Buyer needs X to happen before they move forward with the contract. Now, if X doesn't happen, they don't have to move forward with the contract. It's written that way. One, loan contingency. Let's say there's a property that's worth $500,000. A standard loan on that would be about $400,000. The lender has to actually pre-approve them and qualify them and make sure they can actually get that loan. And so as part of the contract, the buyer wants to have the loan contingency in place to say, hey, I need this loan in order to move forward with this contract. If he doesn't get that loan, obviously he can't move forward. He or she. Let's move on to the appraisal contingency. So when a buyer needs to get a loan, the lender says, I'm going to lend you this money, but I want to make sure that the house is worth the value that I'm actually going to give you money for. So I need to get it appraised. Now, if the lender's appraisal comes back and it says it's not actually worth this much money, it's actually worth this much money, the lender won't give a loan for all that money. And therefore, the buyer can fall back on their appraisal contingency, saying, hey, I wanted to offer this much money, but the lender only says it's this much money. And they can't come to agreement, the seller and buyer can't come to agreement. That's a reason for the buyer not to move on. So you want to write the offer based on the appraisal contingency in place. So there's the loan contingency and the appraisal contingency. Another contingency is the inspection contingency. When you write the contract, you're basically saying, I want to buy this home, but I want to check it out first, right? I want to make sure that it's the way I think it is when I saw it the first time, but I want to make sure that the roof is okay, that the appliances are okay, that there's no cracks, leaks, that it lives up to what I think the house should be, and it's worth this much money, because that's what I wrote. So you have that contingency to fall back on. The inspections can include many different things. You can have a licensed main home inspector, you can have a roof inspector, you can have a plumber come out, electricians come out, anything that you want, that you think that you want to have inspected, you should do. So that's a contingency. So now if the property is not in the condition that you thought that it was when you wrote the contract, that's a reason for you to not continue with the contract. That's a condition. Another common contingency is information. Basically, what has happened on the property that the seller is aware of? What are the HOA rules? What are the covenants, conditions, and restrictions for the neighborhood? What does the seller actually really know about the property, because they've lived there, and those are called seller disclosures. So the buyer, based on all this information that's now being thrown to him or her, that they've collected, they can decide, well, I'm not sure about all this information. I didn't know that when I wrote the offer, so therefore I'm not going to move forward. There are a lot of contingencies, but there's one more that I think some buyers will be using, and that's the sale of the buyer's property prior to purchasing the new property. And so basically what you're saying is, I'm going to buy this property only if I can sell my other property first. As a buyer, you have 17 days to take care of these conditions. That doesn't last forever. This is the way it's written. Now I say it's the way that's the way it's written, because you can change that. You can make it longer, you can make it shorter. Mind you, in a seller's market, these conditions are not favorable for a buyer. You know, a couple years ago when homes were flying off the market, you could barely get in to see a property. Buyers were actually removing almost all. I may have seen all of them gone. No conditions at all, because they wanted to be more attractive to the seller. Basically, all these conditions are hurdles that the seller has to get over in order to close the escrow. And so if there's no conditions, obviously the seller is going to be like, yeah, I'll take that offer. So the standard, the way it's written, is 17 days. You can make them longer, but just be aware that sellers might not like that. So as it's written then, with 17 days, basically you have all this time to get your loan in order, to get the appraiser to come out and make sure that the property is worth the value, to do all your investigations, all your property inspections, to make sure that all the information that is coming to you is to your liking, and that you don't need to sell anything else before you buy this. Within those 17 days, as it's written, you can slowly remove these conditions. And once you remove them, you are basically locking yourself into that contract and moving forward. One more point to make while you have these conditions in place is you're free to negotiate. So let's say there's something that comes back to you and you're not happy with. Well, negotiate. Say that to the seller. For instance, the appraisal came back short. You can negotiate, hey seller, do you mind reducing your price? Or the physical inspection came back and there was a lot of problems. Hey seller, can you fix all these things and maybe we'll move forward? And once you come to an agreement on that, then you can remove these contingencies. So contingencies are very important for buyers and sellers. They're basically conditions that need to be met in order for you to move forward in the contract. Second question was, what does under contract mean? Just like I mentioned, when you're in that 17-day period, basically buyer and seller are in contract. They're working together. They have agreed to move forward. They're under contract and they're doing their due diligence. The buyer is doing their due diligence and doing all of the inspections, making sure that the loan is working, making sure that they can get the appraisal, and they have all the information coming back. And so they're in that period where it's, according to contract, 17 days. It could be shorter, could be longer, but according to contract, it's 17 days that they are doing their due diligence. They're in this time period where it could go either way. It could go the buyer was happy and moving forward, or it could go the buyer was not happy and needed to back out. So under contract means that they're in that time frame. Usually what you'll see, what happens after that is it's pending. So it goes from under contract or contingency backup, which is another thing. It'll go from that, from contingency backup or under contract, to pending, which means basically all the contingencies have been removed. The buyer is moving forward. It just depends on now the loan to actually fund the whole transaction and to close escrow. Those are the stages: active, contingency backup, and under contract. Those are the questions that we had today. And then moving from that to either pending or back on market. Okay, so it could either go either way. Buyer's happy, buyer's not happy. Contingency backup means that yes, the buyers are in this contingency period where they're doing their inspections, blah, 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 but the sellers are now have taken their home off the market. They are required to take their home off the market. They have to stop marketing the home. It's no longer active, but they are willing to look at other offers just in case this buyer doesn't go through. And in this market, I don't see why not. It's a seller's market currently. So I don't see why sellers wouldn't want to take another offer just in case. Again, I absolutely love the questions that come through. I have no problem answering them. I have no problem making a video about them. Actually, it gives me ideas for what you guys want to hear. So please give me more. I love it. Feel free to leave comments. Again, leave comments, contact me. I'm happy to answer. Make sure to like and subscribe so you can see more of my content, more questions that need to be answered. I have a lot more videos about neighborhoods and top fives that you need to see. I'm Realtor Ryan. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. It was going so well. I'm Ryan Mills. I didn't like that at all. I'm Ryan Mills. What is a inspection contingency? Yeah. So that's what under contract means. I'm Realtor Ryan. Thanks for watching. I think that's it.